Hello and welcome to the offensive line. The special teams players have done their job, and now it's time again for the offensive line to take the field again. We're back to answering some more questions that have to do with defending the Christian faith. Have you ever heard of the accusation that Christianity is not logical? We briefly mentioned this in a previous video, but in this one, we want to really take the time to flesh it out. So, is Christianity logical?
Christians are often accused of being anti-intellectual because they have faith. And apparently, if you have faith, then you can't have reason. But those who accuse us of this have a completely wrong understanding of the Christian faith. They would characterize faith as a blind belief in something simply because you want it to be true. But our faith isn't blind. We aren't leaping into the unknown. Our faith is actually a reasonable one.
It's a rational faith that is found upon God, who has revealed himself to the world in creation, in prophecy, in the consistency of the 66 books of the Bible across 40 plus authors, and the life of Jesus Christ himself. Our faith is not in something unknown, but in someone known. In fact, Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15 that our faith is in vain if Jesus did not, in fact, raise from the dead.
The Christian faith is described in Hebrews 11 as the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Faith is a confidence in something we cannot perceive with our senses. After describing faith in Hebrews 11 verse 1, the chapter continues on to talk about a number of Old Testament saints that had this faith and acted upon it. And the thing is, everyone has faith.
We all have faith when boarding a plane that the engineers who designed it correctly, even if we don't fully understand how a giant metal box can travel thousands of miles in the air. We don't know the pilot, but we trust that everything will be okay. We do this every single day. We have faith that the physical laws of the universe will remain consistent. Gravity will work the same on Friday as it does on Monday. No one has actually seen the future, and yet we all have faith in certain future events, don't we?
1 Peter 3:15 is the verse on apologetics. If you want to know what we mean by this, you can watch our very first video up here. But in that verse, Christians are actually told to have a good reason for our faith. Isaiah 1:18 encourages us to reason. We see in the life of the Apostle Paul that his custom was to go into the Jewish synagogues and reason. Over and over again, Christians are called to use reason. And yet, over and over again, Christians are called to have faith. These two things aren't separate.
There are many who attack Christians with the question, is Christianity logical? And when they do, we need to be like the offensive line and push back against them, giving enough time for the offense to actually gain yards on the field. We need to parry our opponent's attacks and go on the offense ourselves. Now, we could talk about how these accusations of the events recorded in Scripture as illogical are misrepresenting reason. They aren't reason versus non-reason, but are in fact people's opinions on what is possible or not.
Take, for example, all the talking animals in the Bible. The serpent in the Garden of Eden, the donkey in Numbers 22. People say that it is not possible for these animals to talk in these ways. But what does this have to do with reason or logic? In fact, it would be completely reasonable and logical for these things to happen when we take into account an all-powerful, all-wise God. However, if we want to not just spend our time defending, but actually begin attacking, we might want to go after their clinging to logic.
That's right. To the person saying that believing in God is not logical, the Christian should say, it's interesting that you say that because logic is only possible because of God. What do we mean by this? The biblical understanding of the world is the only one that makes sense. If I were to throw a football at Hanson, I know that it's going to travel in his direction unimpeded unless something comes in between the ball and him, or I just throw it back. 10 times out of 10, this is going to happen. And on the 11th time, it would be logical to say that it's going to happen the exact same way.
Why? Because logic presupposes order in the universe, which means that things like gravity and aerodynamics don't just apply sometimes and not apply other times. They are always in effect. Where does order come from? Did it just suddenly appear one day Absolutely not. Order comes from order. It is purposeful and intentional. If there was no order, then nothing would make any sense. If God didn't create things in an orderly way, nothing would make sense.
And that's why any understanding of the world that uses reason and logic but does not hold to created order makes absolutely no sense. Christianity is logical. Hopefully, this was yet another encouraging video to you guys. To any non-Christians who are watching, hopefully it was challenging to you. If you want to know more about Christianity, send us a message.
Leave a comment down below. To anyone, ask questions in the comments. We've gotten some great audience participation so far, but we invite you guys to ask even more questions. As always, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channels for future videos. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We're Hanson and Josh from the offensive line, teaching you defense to prepare you for the best offense. Let's just read it.
To gain yards on the field. We need to parry our opponent's attack.
That's really distracting.
I know. He's just zipping away.
Was it like an electric bike or was he actually pedaling?
No, it had big wheels.
No, it's electric.
What?
Not pedaling.